So hi guys, me, Michael, Carson, and Jimmy are going to be looking at how the ACE2 receptor helps COVID-19 infect and hopefully explain it in a way that will be easy to understand and easy to follow. Terms that are going to be relevant to what we're talking about. The renin-angiotensin system, this is the system we're going to be looking at. Basically, it regulates blood flow in the kidneys, liver, lungs, adrenal glands, and arteries. Hypertension is high blood pressure, and we're going to be talking about how that relates to COVID, and it can cause heart disease, heart attack, and stroke, which is the issue with it. And what's going to be regulating this blood pressure is what we call angiotensin, which it has two forms. So 1 and 2 with the Roman numerals, this is what we consider bad angiotensin, as it raises blood pressure, and obviously that increases the risk of hypertension. And then this is converted into angiotensin 1,9 and 1,7, which is good angiotensin in the terms of hypertension because it lowers blood pressure and obviously reduces the risk of hypertension. ACE2 is the protein that does this conversion, and this is what COVID's going to be acting on.
Now you might be asking yourself, well, how is ACE2 related to COVID-19? ACE2 is actually the entry method for the COVID virus into the cell. So it connects to these receptor proteins and then is able to put itself into the cell and is able to reproduce from there, spreading throughout the body. You might be asking, well, what does that affect the system that we just heard about? Well, it completely gets rid of everything that ACE2 would do. So we're just left with the rest of the system. You might be asking, well, what's the difference in the normal body then? Well, we have our two cells without COVID-19 and with COVID-19. In the cell without, we have our bad angiotensin. As it moves towards the ACE2 receptor, it is converted to the good angiotensin. And that counteracts the effects of the bad one, so we're left with the overall good state. While in the cell with COVID-19, we have our bad angiotensin, and as it moves towards the cell, or towards the ACE2, we actually have the COVID virus blocking it. And so we just get more and more of this bad block up without any of the good. So it gets us a really negative system.
So as you see, there's a lot of science behind this idea of ACE2, but you're probably wondering, how does this really relate to the common knowledge of COVID-19 and kind of, what you already know? So as you know, there's a wide range of symptoms of COVID-19, from a common cough to a loss of taste and smell, and about everything in between. Furthermore, some infected patients are dying while others are asymptomatic and don't even know they are contagious. You might wonder why this is, and ACE2 receptors may be a possible explanation to this. The more of these receptors someone has may determine how likely someone is to contract the virus and respond to it differently. So, for example, if someone has a high amount of ACE2 receptors, they will be more likely to contract COVID-19. Furthermore, this amount of receptors may also determine the reactions and symptoms someone has from the virus. Different levels of receptors may lead to different symptoms. Given this, ACE inhibitors could prove to be beneficial to stopping the virus. Preliminary testing of these inhibitors has shown decreased all-cause mortality when infected. Targeting these receptors and weakening the symptoms. When attacked, the angiotensin 2 production in the receptors is reduced and mortality is less.
So here's one example of the comorbid conditions that many people may have and how it is related to COVID-19. Hypertension is associated with increased mortality rates in COVID-19 patients. And why is that? Let me explain it to you. Several animal studies carried out on diet-induced hypertension rat models have established a link between increased blood flow, increased blood pressure, and reduced mRNA expression and protein level of ACE2. Data show that low levels of ACE2 can lead to elevated levels of angiotensin 2 and consequently hypertension. What are our bodies going to respond to hypertension? The answer is to upregulate ACE2 expression. Animal studies have suggested that ACE inhibitors and angiotensin receptor blockers may upregulate ACE2 expression, and thus increasing the availability of target molecules for SARS-CoV-2. That explains why older people who have comorbid conditions such as hypertension are associated with higher mortality rates. And thank you for your time. I hope you learned a great deal from this presentation.